Hi everyone, it's Kimber, the Study Abroad Specialist. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to go through and build a recession-friendly budget for your semester abroad. So before we jump into today's video, I did want to let you know about a freebie that I have for you. So recently, this was available for purchase, but I've made it for free now because I think it's important to give people as much value for free as possible. And I know that people are trying to save money right now in the situation that we're all in with the impending recession. So if you look down to the description box or up in the description if you're on Facebook, you will find a link to my downloadable free e-guide on budgeting. This is going to be very useful for students as you are beginning to think about your study abroad plans. And even if you are headed towards study abroad in a couple weeks and you're just finding this video, this is going to be useful for you because we all know that budgeting and money is a huge part of anyone's study abroad journey. And I definitely want you to be able to think clearly about what that's going to look like for you, particularly as we talk about today's topic. It's going to be very pertinent as we begin to think about what it means to study abroad in a recession and how you can save as much money as possible. So go ahead and click into the description box and download that and access it for completely free. And also to go ahead and like this video, share this video, and subscribe. So for today's video, we are talking about the recession. Now, for the past couple of weeks on my channel, if you have found my content, you know that I've been talking about the recession. I definitely don't just want to turn into a recession channel. That is not my goal here. But I think that it is pertinent. We know that back in July, it was announced that the US was headed towards a recession. And as I said in recent content, I believe that within the next maybe 3 to 4 months, it could even be sooner than that, that places like the UK, France, Germany will probably follow suit. And then, as you know, as that begins, things hit around the world. And so I feel that this is going to be very important for students, not if you are just interested in studying abroad in 2022, but as we know, recessions tend to extend, particularly if they are really bad, out into 2, 3, 4 years. So you could be watching this in 2024, and it may not be as bad as it was 2 years before then, but you still could be dealing with some of this. And I think in a lot of ways, you can think of your budgeting for study abroad, not just in terms of what you would need for a recession, but you want to save as much money as possible while still having a good time while you're studying abroad. So I think that this is pertinent whether we are in a recession or not, but it just makes more sense with this particular timeline. So in terms of budgeting for study abroad semesters, the way that I like to think about the students that I advise, and if you are interested in getting some advising from me, you can follow the link that is here on the screen, click on that, and you can learn more about what I do there. But I tend to think of my students in two different sort of lanes. And I can speak about this because I was in both of these lanes when I was studying abroad. So you have students who are doing semester abroad, which is kind of the more traditional route. And then you have students who are doing degrees abroad. And those are two different needs. So I will be doing two different videos. So the one today is talking about semester specifically. And then I will do one that is talking about degrees abroad because you are looking at multi-years abroad. And that is a totally different route than people who are just going for 3, 4, 6 months. So with semesters specifically, even though you might think, well, I'll be abroad for just a little bit of time, it may not be as difficult for me to think about money. And by the time that I get back home, it won't be as big of a deal. It's only 3 months away. A lot can still happen within 3 months, particularly when you're thinking about global markets. And I know that for a lot of students out there, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. You're probably, depending on your parents, or you may have done some work before you left, and so you saved up your money. And so you really want to get the most benefit out of any budget that you're using. So the very first thing that you can do to sort of build a recession-friendly budget is to just go through and start right now thinking about what all your expenses are. And this can definitely be a very sobering thing as you go through, because again, as human beings and as people out there in the world, particularly in this world that we live in of everything just kind of being a click away and everything is just a button away, we tend to spend more than we think. We all are guilty of it. And so I want you to go through, and you can either do it on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. Just make a list of everything that you spend money on. So it could be the smallest thing of every day you like to go and get that $5 or £5 uh, cup of coffee. I personally am not a coffee drinker, but I know a lot of people that is their little indulgence. Or it could be that maybe you're in a situation where you have to get gas money once a week or whatever it looks like for you. Just go through and make that particular list, because that is going to sort of be your first baseline of thinking about, what do I currently spend money on? Now, this is keeping in mind, this is going to lead to my next point, that some of the things that you will spend money on while you're studying abroad that you spend money on now will not be relevant while you're studying abroad. So maybe, for example, you do spend, let's just give it a nice context here. You're in the US and you spend $100 on gas, probably more than that right now, every week. And you're not probably going to be driving while you're abroad. So that is pretty much X'd out. So you don't have to worry about that. So the first thing that you're going to do is go through and make a list of everything that you spend money on. The next thing you're going to go do is, I want you to sort of, within that particular list of everything you spend money on, whether it is weekly or monthly, however you want to do it, I want you to sort of go through and rank those in terms of, what are going to be the things that you cannot live without? What are going to be the things that you could potentially get rid of? And what are the things that could just, maybe they're one-offs or whatever that is, because that's also going to make a difference before you go ahead and start transitioning into thinking about what study abroad will look like. For the second point to this particular topic, once you've gone through and made this list, now you are starting to think about, as I sort of touched on a second ago, what you're going to actually need when you're studying abroad. So there are certain things that you will not need, but there are definitely certain things that you will need. So I want you to sort of break it off into two groups now. So you've gone through and you sort of figured out what you spend money on all the time, and then you sort of rank them in terms of what is going to be most important to you, what is just things that you really kind of want but you don't necessarily need, and then things that are maybe one off, or even if you're just putting money away for emergencies, whatever that is. So now that you've moved on to that and you're looking at study abroad, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be breaking it down into the two columns of saying that, out of all the things that I spend money on, what are the likely things that I will need when I go study abroad for my semester away, and what are the things that I will not need? So again, as I touched on before, it could be that, for example, maybe you are subtracting away your cost of your car. So you don't need to worry about that. You don't need to worry about gasoline. If you are, let's say, in a place like the US or even in Australia or different places where you need car insurance all the time, you may still have to pay that, but there's certain things that you won't have to worry about. However, you may be going to a place where you may have to get some type of health insurance. So that may be something that right now you don't have to worry about, but you're going to have to think about, what does that look like in my new budget? So you are basically subtracting and adding and trying to figure out, for this overall study abroad budget for your semester, what are going to be the things that will stay the same? What are going to be things that are suddenly going to maybe cost more or going to be added to your budget that you wouldn't have thought about before? And what are things that are not going to be relevant for the time that you are away? So go ahead and start making those particular lists. And then it is going to give you a baseline for starting to really think about how you can hone in on a great budget for study abroad. So within the scope of thinking about your budget, as you've gone through and you start to think about those two lists of, while you're studying abroad, what are the things you're going to have, and what are the things that are likely going to fall off? I also want you to really have a good idea of what your must-haves are and what your non-negotiables are. So it is going to depend on where you're studying abroad, when you're studying abroad. All those things make a difference for your particular semester away. But we all know that there are certain things that you can't live without. So you're going to have to factor in your food bill. Maybe that's something right now that you don't have to pay for, but once you get abroad, you're going to have to pay for that. But that is something that is non-negotiable. You need that to live. Maybe you're going to have a weekly train pass, or it could be a bus pass, whatever that looks like for you, depending on where you're going. It could also be too that maybe you need special software for your particular program that you're doing. I know that a lot of students fall under this category, where maybe you have to get your computer updated to include certain programs, or maybe you need certain microphones or certain other things. There's so many different things that people do when they're studying abroad and they're preparing. So you just need to think about that. And those would be definitely considered non-negotiables. You're going to have them. I would also say too that there are other things that you may not have thought about. So I know that in an earlier point, I was talking about health insurance. There are certain places where you go that even if the particular country has free health insurance, they have it for their citizens. You are not eligible for that. So that means that you may have to have traveler's insurance, which is another cost to you that you may not have had to worry about right now. Or you may need to just think about your housing. Maybe your housing is not included, or maybe even if it is included, you just pay certain taxes on certain things. There are so many parts of a budget that a lot of people don't necessarily consider until they are in the middle of their study abroad journey. And I definitely don't want you to do that. I want you to be able to think about it ahead of time so that you can begin to prepare yourself and you can sort of go into it with clear eyes and understanding. Of course, keep in mind that things change all the time, and it may be where you're not sticking strictly to your budget, but you definitely just want to be as on target as possible so there aren't as many surprises. Now, the other thing as well is that within the must haves and the non negotiables, we also have to talk about just the simple wants. And with the wants, I understand that you want to also have fun, you want to have a good time. I'm going to do a separate video talking about that specifically. You want to build some of that in, but you don't want that to be the overall arching theme of your study abroad budget. Okay. You want to make sure that you're building in a little bit of that for your fun time and for other things you would like to do, like travel. But right now, in this particular time, I want you to just focus on what your must haves are and what your non negotiables are, because that is going to be the bulk of your budget. So, for this next point here on how you can build a recession friendly budget for study abroad with your semester away, I want you to think about, you've already gone through a major list, but I want you to think about, and this is something that students often have a hard time with. I've also been in the same situation, particularly as you think about packing and what you should take with you, is thinking about what you should take versus what you should buy while you're there. So there is definitely a balance with this because, again, particularly thinking in the terms of a recession, you have to understand, number one, how your home currency measures up with the currency that you're going to, because that can make a difference for some students. If they are going to a country where the currency is much worse, then they're like, well, my currency is going to get me a lot over there, so I should just wait until I get there. Whereas for some students, it is in the reverse, where they're like, my currency is a lot weaker than where I'm going. I need to get everything now. So you're going to have to determine that. And this is something that may not even be determined until maybe a week or two before you leave. But I want you to go ahead and start thinking about that because it's going to be important. So, like I said, even for things that are just going to be your basics, like some of your basic clothes to start off, some of your school supplies, some of your sort of home items that you would just want within your apartment the first couple of days, you have to decide if it's going to be worth getting things where you are at right now and maybe taking them over in your suitcase or shipping them over. I know that can get a bit pricey, but thinking about it in terms of the balance of that or having to buy it somewhere else, you have to also have to keep in mind that depending on where you're going, but this is true for most places, that there's not always an equal equivalent. So for a lot of things, whether it be for the basic things like medicines, even over the counter, there may be certain things that are similar. But for some people out there, if you have, let's say, I'm going to get really mundane here, but you may have allergies and there's only one type of medicine that's going to work for you and you can only buy it in your home country, you're going to want to go ahead and stock up on that stuff so that you can take it with you, because you can't depend on the fact that even if they have a similar equivalent in the country that you're going to, that's going to work for you. I would much rather you have it on hand. And there are lots of different situations like that. There are, for example, just people that they like certain pens or they like certain notebooks and they want to have that. There may not be equivalent of what you were looking for in the country that you're going to. Go ahead and stock up on that stuff and plan to take it with you. Now, what I say is if you have a specific item like a special notebook that you like or like a special pen, or of course, if you have special software that you need to get beforehand, I would get all of that. But all the basic living things you will worry about once you get there. So, of course, you're going to have some of your wardrobe with you, but you're also going to want to save space because you are likely going to want to buy things while you're there. So, you don't need to take everything that you own with you. You don't need to, for example, I know that in the world that we live in, this digital age, we have so many cords for this and that and plugins for this. Find a way to just simplify that. Just have a couple cords with you that you're going to need, and you're going to have your computer case and your iPad case and all of that stuff and everything kind of together. But you don't need to take all these extra things. That's a huge part of the decision process when you're going through and packing and deciding what to take, is that some people want to just kind of take nothing. And then some people want to take everything. I probably fall into that camp of wanting to take everything. And I had to learn through trial and error of my many times studying abroad of the fact of, even though there are not necessarily going to be the exact things that I want over there, wherever I would be going, that I can usually supplement with certain things. Again, not saying that, for example, if it's something that is medical related or something that you specifically need, you definitely need to take that with you. But there are certain things that you're going to want to just get while you're over there, and that you would not want to waste luggage space, because we know that airlines still have these crazy luggage fees that they've had for decades now, at least a decade. And you don't want to waste your space, your precious space on that. And as I mentioned before, you do have the opportunity if you need to ship things, but that can get very, very pricey as well. So just think about that balance, and think about things in terms of as well, what are certain things that could just kind of be flyers, right? Like, what are things that could be kind of a one-off that you buy while you're over there, and then you're fine tossing it at the end of your semester. I want you to sort of categorize those things as well, so that you can make sure that you are being economical with how you're traveling with your suitcase, and as you go through and take things, but also too that you are not missing out on anything you might need, so that you can simplify not only your packing, but also your budget too, and save as much money as possible. So now that you have gone through, you started out by making a list of what your current expenses are. And then you went through and you divided that list between thinking about what you're going to need while you study abroad versus what you are no longer going to need while you're abroad. And then we started to think about what are your must-haves and what are your non-negotiables, and also thinking about what you'll be able to purchase while you are away versus what you should be taking with you. So now what I want you to do is to create another list. You can just, if you are writing it down, just turn on the other side of the page. If you are on an open document, like a Google document, just move to the next page. What you're going to do is you are going to create a new list. And so this particular new list, this is going to help you start to begin building your budget. Now, what you're going to do is within this list, you are simplifying, again, all the things you've decided that are going to be your must-haves and your non-negotiables, and also to the things that you have decided that you are going to purchase once you're there, and the things that you are taking with you. And what I want you to do is breaking down from the original budget that you had, the amount that you spend, I want you to sort of subtract out at least 3% of what you currently spend. Because again, we are thinking about building a recession proof budget, or at least recession friendly. And so with that, it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily cut corners in every way. But what I'm trying to say here is that you need to get a little bit more comfortable with having just a little bit less. And this is particularly important for students as you think about exchange rates more than anything, because depending on where you're coming from, so much of the exchange rate can eat at a lot of different things. So even if you are going to the ATM and pulling out money, you're going to be paying more for that. If you are paying on a credit card, you're going to be paying more for that. And so if you are able to build in that wiggle room of even 3 to 5%, just a little bit more, knowing that you may not completely stick to it all the time, but that it's at least there, that's going to be really useful for you to think about how you're actually spending your money effectively as you go through this period of studying abroad during a recession. So I think that that is something that's going to be very important to you to be able to do that, because it's going to give you that sort of balance of knowing that you have a little bit more money if you need it. But in reality, you're sort of working in this framework of having at least 3% less within the budget that you would normally have. I would even say up to 5%, depending on what your actual totals for the month are going to be, of how you're getting money, how you're earning money, maybe your parents are giving you money. But again, you want to be as judicious as possible as you're thinking about this for your particular budget for your recession. So I would say a 3 to 5% range is going to be good. If you want to take it up to 10%, be very ambitious with that. That is even better, because again, it's not just about you not spending money, but it's also about you putting away money, saving money, and just having more money around. And I think that that's something that everyone can get on board with for recession times, is having more money. So this is going to be very beneficial to you. So definitely go ahead and do that as well. So I hope that this video was helpful for you. I know that for students who are just going for a semester away, it seems like a short period of time, and technically it is, but you still want to think about it in terms of the context of if you are studying abroad in the middle of a recession, how it's going to impact you. I will link another video that I did where I talked about sort of recession proofing, but that is more or less like once you actually get there, what are some of the things that you can do to make sure that you are saving as much money as possible. But this particular video was really focused on helping students being able to sort of build out a budget before you go, because there is nothing like sort of getting to a new place and you're already new, you don't really know what's going on, and you're like, oh my goodness, I need to figure out what my budget's going to be. If you can go ahead and forecast that, that is going to be so much more helpful for you. And so I definitely want to just help you be able to sort of begin to think about that framework so that you can move forward and be able to keep as much of your money as possible. So as I mentioned in the opener, definitely go ahead and download the free budget e-guide. It's going to be really useful to you. I know that this can be very intimidating for people. A lot of people are scared to think about money. That's like the last part they want to think about when study abroad, but we have to think about it and we have to plan for it so that you can have a great time and also get the most value out of everything you're doing. So thanks so much for sticking around. Please go ahead and like this video if you have not already. Please subscribe to the channel. I release videos every single Friday and sometimes on Wednesdays and Thursdays as well. And please also share this video. I know that if you are a embarking study abroad student, you probably have friends within your network that are as well. And we want to make sure that they get this information too. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.